Good evening. Hope everybody's doing all right tonight. Man, I'll tell you what. It's been the first day in a long time that I actually had a hard time putting the news out of my mind, even just for a short time. I went flying for a little while with Charles today, and I found myself pretty much the entire time just going over and rehashing the different things that have transpired today. Because, in my opinion, I think they were pretty substantial things that happened today, especially some of Putin's words himself. I'll tell you what, I'm actually kind of shocked at this point that there hadn't already been any physical conflict directly between the U.S. and Russia, or let's say NATO and Russia. I'm really shocked. But I think with the different things, and the things that's been done, the things that they're doing, and the things that have been said over the course, especially of the last 2 or 3 days, I think really kind of lays out the framework for what we're looking at. I've got some articles open, a lot of them kind of going into that and showing some of the stuff that I was referring to. And I'm telling you, it's not a good situation. I don't really have anything that I know of off the top of my head to talk about before I get into stuff. I figured make it a quick and easy Thursday night, which is our Friday, so to speak. And just kind of try again tomorrow to put it out of my news, or put the news out of my mind for a little bit. Because I do that every day. That is something that I do every day. I detach from it to the best that I can. And it could be doing anything, right? I might be scrolling Facebook. And I'll just detach from the news. And, there's not loads of news that's on my Facebook news feed. So, I'm sure I'm sure anything good is getting suppressed anyway. And I'm hearing about whatever the hell somebody had for lunch. So, it is what it is, but it's one of the things that I do just to kind of, step away from the news for a bit. And I do it every day. Howdy, Leo. Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things. You got to have that balance. And it's kind of chaotic because I don't really know a such thing as a schedule. Chaos is my schedule, and it's always worked well for me, and I just kind of throw things in where they fit. So I've learned that when it comes to things like that, having to detach from a situation or a thought process, just a skill that I've picked up. You can train yourself to do these things. It's kind of one of those things I didn't have a choice. So, well, I guess the best way to do it is just to dive in. Have a sip of coffee. It's an awesome plane there. B2 Spirit. Not a whole lot's known about that particular bird at this time. Huh. Let's see. I'm reading up the comments. Yeah, I miss the days of working on cars and stuff like that. Terribly miss the days of working on cars and stuff. Let's see. Oh, I do not read and Oh, how do I read and talk? Well, I don't read, talk, and type because, look, when it comes to typing, that takes, it doesn't matter how many different things I can multitask. It doesn't matter how many things I can figure out how to do faster, more efficiently. When it comes to typing, not only can I not speak, but if you're talking to me, I can't hear you when I'm typing. So no, I can't. I can do the reading and talking, but the typing, absolutely not. Not even if you want me to listen to you, I can't type. Kind of one of those things. Let's see. All right. U.S. to modernize nuclear arsenal in Europe, says Politico. Now, I don't know necessarily exactly the order. Some of these articles, as I read them to you, they might be a little out of order how they actually happened. I'm not sure. Most of them, I believe, are in order how they came out on RT, but that doesn't mean anything. And I have moved some around because I knew the order was different. So, just letting you know. If anybody picks up on, well, that happened before that. Well, possibly. I'm not sure. Let's see. The U.S. has brought forward delivery of upgraded B-61-12 airdropped unguided nuclear bombs, boy, that's a mouthful, to NATO bases in Europe, Politico reported on Wednesday, citing a U.S. diplomatic cable and two people familiar with the matter. By the way, as far as reading and speaking, if you watch once in a while, I will change words. Usually it'll be a word with the exact same meaning, but I'll change the word. That's because I'm about, roughly on average, about a half a paragraph ahead of what's coming out of my mouth. And I know that might sound strange, but yeah, I can do that. I can actually speed read. Let's see. But I can't remember where the hell I was. All right, I think there, though. According to the report, the change originally planned for next spring is now scheduled for this December. U.S. officials were said to have relayed the news to NATO allies during a closed-door meeting in Brussels, Belgium this month. In an email comment to Politico, Pentagon spokesman Brigadier General Patrick Ryder declined to discuss the details of the U.S. nuclear arsenal, but said that the replacement of the older generation B-61 bombs for the B-61-12 version is part of a long-planned and scheduled modernization effort. It is in no way linked to the current events in Ukraine and was not sped up in any way, Ryder added. The B-61 is a family of nuclear bombs originally developed in the 1960s. The upgraded version is equipped with a modern tail kit for greater accuracy, according to the U.S. Department of Energy. The weapon is designed to be carried by a number of Western aircraft, including B-2 and B-21 bombers, as well as F-15, F-16, F-35, and Tornado jet fighters. Diversity. The news comes as West and Moscow have been accusing each other of stirring up nuclear tensions amid the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And then the rest just goes into the background, so... Have a sip of coffee. So, we got that going on. And, that's a pretty serious commitment, really. I doubt they're going to stop at just, upgrading. I'm sure they're going to be increasing stockpiles and... Yeah, I have a feeling I don't know. We're not in a good spot. Let me, there was an article that came out, so let me get it shared. That way it'll be there when we get there. All right. Russia makes veiled threat against Musk's Starlink satellites. There was somebody I was replying to on Facebook just within the last 2-3 days. and they were asking advice on whether or not they should go with Starlink or Cox Internet. Now, I've heard a lot of nightmare stories about Cox Internet. My buddy Charles I talk about, I was actually on the phone with him one day when he went to go replace his modem. And that was intense. It was intense. It was hilarious for me. Probably not so much for him at the time. But anyway, I digress. Maybe someday I'll share that story. It's hilarious. But anyway, so they were wondering between Starlink and Cox. And I told them, even though I've heard nightmare stories about Cox, that not that you see, I was fine. I was perfectly fine. I was the adult in the room, right? For a change. Let me add that. For a change. And we have Giggle Ass over here. All because I'm saying the name of an internet company. I didn't actually even think about it until she started giggling. But anyway, I told him to go with the internet provider other than Starlink because this whole ordeal going on with Ukraine, I really wouldn't want to place my eggs in that basket, meaning, eggs in Musk's basket. Yeah, I don't want to go there. So, no, seriously though. I do see this as a very high possibility, and even inching up on the probability list, to be honest, because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of work being done over that internet network through his satellites, and that would not only prevent that communication from happening, but think about the morale that would destroy. So I highly expect to see that. I tried to watch some of a live stream earlier, and the guest that was on the show, not a bright character at all. Full Spectrum Survival had on some dude, and he was just, it was more or less his impression, more or less, that Russia can't beat Ukraine, so how the hell are they going to knock satellites out of space? And it's just like, really? Russia can't defeat Ukraine? No, it's not that. Russia has to use a measured response, because if he just goes in with the big old boot, international, organizations actually have a reason to come down on him. But what's going on, the way it's happening right now, the international community really doesn't have a leg to stand on to go into combat. Meaning, like, NATO really doesn't have the cause at this time to go in militarily. Not at this time. So, yeah, I think that this is a very high probability. I absolutely believe that Putin has the capability of doing this. I think that Xi Jinping has the ability to do this. No doubts. So, let me go ahead and read a little bit here. Sorry, I was telling you all about my opinion. It says, Western nations have been using formerly civilian space assets to conduct military action against Moscow and Ukraine, a Russian diplomat has said, warning that the country may consider these types of satellites to be legitimate military targets. Speaking at a space event at the UN on Wednesday, Russian Representative Konstantin Vorontsov, or something to that effect, expressed concern about the extremely dangerous trend that came to the forefront during the conflict in Ukraine. The U.S. and its allies have been using elements of the civilian space infrastructure, including commercial, for military purposes. Now, these nations apparently do not quite realize that such activity essentially constitutes an involvement in military action through a proxy. Quasi-civilian infrastructure may be considered a legitimate target for a retaliatory strike, he warned. Vorontsov, or I think it's Vorontsov, it's kind of hard to say, and I'm probably still saying it wrong, who serves as deputy head of the non-proliferation department in the Russian Foreign Ministry, said this path of escalation could become disastrous for all nations relying on space technology in their lives. He urged international discussion of the situation to prevent a full-scale arms race in space. Space, Force. I really need an echo button for doing Space Force. And we're probably going to have to do a lot on Space Force. Another sip of coffee. I mean, you see the headline. In stunning strategy reversal, Pentagon will no longer rule out use of nuclear weapons against non-nuclear threat. Kind of a big deal. In stunning strategy reversal, that's just a repeat of the headline, sorry. Well, we're finally there. Stocks are officially trading off nuclear war headlines. Moments ago, as part of his closely watched speech, Vladimir Putin appeared to talk down the likelihood of a nuclear attack on Ukraine, which, however, is more than can be said about the U.S. As Bloomberg just reported, the Pentagon's new national defense strategy rejects limits on using nuclear weapons long championed by arms control advocates and in the not-too-distant past by Joe Biden, citing burgeoning threats from Russia and China. By the 2030s, the United States will, for the first time in its history, face two major nuclear powers as strategic competitors and potential adversaries, the Defense Department said in the long-awaited document issued Thursday. In response, the U.S. will maintain a very high bar for nuclear employment without ruling out use of the weapons in retaliation to a non-nuclear strategic threat to the homeland, U.S. forces abroad, or allies. So they basically just wrote a blank check for the button. That's what they've done. Not only does it not have to be a nuclear threat, it doesn't even have to be a nuclear threat towards us. So just at any time of their choosing, we'll just launch a tactical nuke. This is not good. This is not good. I'll tell you what. I don't know what the hell this nation was thinking, regardless of who was president at the time, because this is going to cover more than a few of them. But we have had the most stupid policies. It's unbelievable. And any progress that had been started had been yanked away. And those deals that were made were kind of crazy. But no deal at all is not good. And that's pretty much where we're standing at this point. I think there still are some treaties in place, but they're probably not really being paid much attention to at this point. So, Anyway, long article. I shared it out on Twitter. If you want to read it, just go there. This is, I guess, what they did is copied it. That's what I'm assuming they did. I don't have an account with Bloomberg, so, yeah. Bloomberg just says, you can't read this because bite me. You got to have a, Create an account and unlock one bonus article. How about no? Say, well, let me read it. Because they're racist. That's what it is. They're racist. Anyway. Is this one... Hang on. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to be repeating this or not in a moment, and I will try not to. Actually, yeah, I think I will be repeating it. So, I do want to point out that particular quote, just in case it's not said in this article, but most dangerous and unpredictable decade since World War II ahead, says Putin. That's one hell of a statement. Now, he had spoke today, and there were several things that he had to say that are all things we damn well better put on our radar. I thought this article did a pretty good job of picking out the important points and choosing them. Sorry, I thought I was hitting buttons. It says, I'm not going to read that. I'll read like his quotes, the big part of his quotes. Ruling the world is what the so-called West has staked in this game, which is certainly dangerous, bloody, and I would say dirty. It denies the sovereignty, it denies the sovereignty of countries and peoples, their identity and uniqueness, and disregards any interest of other states, the Russian president explained. In their so-called rules-based world order, only those making the rules have any agency, while everyone else must simply obey. I'm pretty much, he's saying that the United States treats the world, the international community, in the same way that it treats its own citizens. So, I'd say that's accurate. However, the West has no constructive ideas and positive development. They simply have nothing to offer the world except the preservation of their dominance. And this goes a little bit into one of the other statements, and this one is headline rules for thee, but not for me. It says the West insists its culture and worldview should be universal, Putin said. While not saying it outright, they behave as if these values must be unconditionally accepted by everyone else. Yet when some other countries, notably China, began benefiting from globalization, the West immediately changed or completely canceled many of the rules it long insisted were set in stone and sacred, Putin said, with free trade, economic openness, fair competition, and even property rights, suddenly forgotten at once. Completely. As soon as something becomes profitable for themselves, they change the rules immediately, on the go, in the course of the game. And again, they do the same thing to their own citizens. So I can't argue this. Not even the least or whatever bit. I didn't know what the hell to say. But yeah, not even the least bit. I can't argue this. Says, believing themselves infallible, the rulers of the West desire to destroy or cancel those they dislike. Is he wrong? Where Nazis burned books, the Western guardians of liberalism and progress now banned Dostoevsky and Tchaikovsky. I'm probably saying them both wrong, Putin said. Putin didn't say I was probably saying them both. He would, though. Probably slap me. Liberal democracy is transformed into something unrecognizable, declaring any alternative viewpoint as propaganda or a threat, he added. The so-called cancel culture destroys anything that is alive and creative, preventing any freedom of thought and culture, economics, or politics alike. History, of course, will put everything in its place, Putin said, adding that the self-conceit of those who seek to cancel them is off the charts, but no one will even remember their names in a few years, while Dostoevsky and Tchaikovsky and Pushkin will endure. And is he wrong? No. Now that's on him. I can't tell you whether this is accurate or not, but Russia is an independent, original civilization and has never considered itself an enemy of the West, Putin said. Since antiquity, it has had ties with the West of traditional Christian and Muslim values, freedom, patriotism, and rich culture. There is another West, however, an aggressive, cosmopolitan, neocolonialist, acting as a tool of neoliberal elites, Putin said, whose dictates Russia will never accept. Even so, Russia is not throwing a gauntlet to the elites of that West, but simply defends its right to exist and develop freely. At the same time, we ourselves are not seeking to become some kind of new hegemon, Putin said. And he said, we are standing at a historic milestone ahead of what is probably the most dangerous, unpredictable, and at the same time important decade since the end of World War II. The West is not able to single-handedly manage humanity, but it is desperately trying to do it, and most of the peoples of the world no longer want to put up with it, Putin said. I've said that very same thing. I have said that very same thing. Conflicts arising from this tumult are threatening the entire humanity, and constructively resolving them is the principal challenge ahead, according to the Russian leader. No one can sit out the coming storm, which has acquired a global character, Putin said. Humanity has two choices, either to continue to accumulate a burden of problems that will inevitably crush us all, or try together to find solutions, albeit imperfect, but working, capable of making our world, safer and more stable. I suck at reading now, apparently. And we have a sip of coffee and we'll finish this up. Again, I think that a lot of the things that he said, I agree with him. But I think they were very, very, very important things to pay attention to. This is what he thinks a multipolar world should look like. In a truly democratic multipolar world, any society, culture, and civilization should have the right to choose its own path and socio-political system. If the U.S. and Europe have that right, so should everyone else. Russia also has it, and no one will ever be able to dictate to our people what kind of society we should build and on what principles. The biggest threat to the political, economic, and ideological monopoly of the West is that alternative social models may arise in the world and would be more effective and more attractive. Above all, we believe that the new world order should be based on law and justice, be free, authentic, and fair, the Russian president said. And I just, those words concern me. The future world order is being formed before our eyes, and in this world order we must listen to everyone, take into account every point of view, every nation, society, culture, every system of worldviews, ideas, and religious beliefs without imposing a single truth on anyone, and only on this basis understanding our responsibility for the fate of our peoples and the planet to build a symphony of human civilization. Now, how many times have I said to be careful that these countries, meaning China, Russia, the United States, are actually working together? Look, don't pay attention to what they're saying. Pay attention to where they're going. Pay attention to where they're driving the car. Regardless of the words coming out of their mouth, they are all driving the car to the same destination. That not only goes for the different nations of the world, it goes for the different political parties of the world. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're on the bus. They're driving the bus. They're all going to the same destination. I hope enough Americans decide to hop off the bus like I say, I will never stop, unless I get some absolute definitive proof. I will never stop holding open that possibility that they could be working together, because there are just some things that just really seemed really interesting, like the whole COVID stuff, right? Even Russia jumped in to get the jab going. Everybody, the exact same. I mean, come on. There's too much that we know about that when it comes to our own nation. You know what I mean? There's just too much that we know about that. So I have to question Russia's program and every other country's program. A lot of the stuff that I see the United States doing is a perfect model of what China has been doing. Kind of crazy. China backs Russia after diplomatic call. Might be something to pay attention to. It says China has pledged to support Russia as it regains its global power status. Foreign Minister Wang Yi reportedly told his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov during a phone conversation on Thursday, in which the two officials vowed to back each other in their geopolitical endeavors. Beijing will firmly support the Russian side, assisting President Vladimir Putin's efforts to unite and lead the Russian people to overcome difficulties and eliminate disturbances, as well as realize the strategic development goals to bolster Russia's status as a major power on the international stage, according to the readout posted by the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It is the legitimate right of China and Russia to realize their own development and revitalization, which fully conforms to the development trend of the times, said Beijing's press release. Any attempt to block the progress of China and Russia will never succeed. The top diplomats reaffirmed their mutual trust and firm support and vowed to work together to take both of their countries to the next level in such a way that would not only benefit both nations but provide more stability to the turbulent world. Lavrov also congratulated Xi Jinping on his recent re-election as General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party. According to Russian Foreign Ministry, Lavrov thanked Beijing for supporting Russia's effort to achieve a fair settlement of the situation around Ukraine and derail Kiev's alleged plans to set off a weapon of mass destruction in a false flag provocation that could be used to demand more pressure on Moscow and additional military aid from the West. So, and you know all what's going on with that. Well, crazy. Crazy. I've got one more tab open, and we'll do some headlines and run out. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure Charles is wanting to go flying tomorrow. I might go live tomorrow when me and him go flying. So it might have to happen. Woman arrested for feeding homeless sues city. And I've talked about this a number of times because there's been a lot of people arrested for feeding and housing homeless people and trying to help people down on their luck. It's actually a crime in many cities. It says here an Arizona woman sued her city on Tuesday over a law that punishes feeding the homeless in public parks with a 4-month prison sentence. Yeah, you heard that right. A 4-month prison sentence if you feed the homeless in a public park. The 78-year-old was arrested under the law for distributing food from a van. Norma Thornton was brought to court. In April, a month after she was ticketed for feeding homeless people in Bullhead Community Park without a permit. She was the first person punished under a new ordinance passed by the city's council a year earlier with the goal of deterring the homeless from congregating in parks. While charges against Thornton were dropped, she filed a lawsuit on Tuesday and is seeking an injunction to stop the city enforcing the ordinance. Bullhead City has criminalized kindness. Thornton's attorney told Phoenix TV station KPHO the city council passed an ordinance that makes it a crime punishable by 4 months imprisonment to share food in public parks for charitable purposes. I thought the other one said 4. Oh, I guess I did say 4 months. For some reason, my mind registered 4 year. I was like, what the hell? But 4 month even. It says, however, city officials pointed out that the ordinance only applies to public parks, churches, clubs, and private properties may continue to serve food to those living on the streets without permits. Moreover, the city insisted that the law was necessary after park users complained for years about being solicited for food and money by the homeless. City workers have been repeatedly called to address public nuisance and other illegal behavior, clean up human waste, litter, trash, and other debris left over from the food-sharing events, the city wrote in the ordinance. So, I'll go ahead and read this. It says there were more than 580,000 homeless people on the U.S. streets in 2020, according to the most recent figures from the National Alliance to End Homelessness. While this number is lower than the peak of 647,000 recorded in 2007, the number of those lacking any kind of shelter has increased every year since 2015 and now stands at 226,000. According to a 2019 report by the National Homeless Law Center, 16 out of 187 cities surveyed have laws like Bullhead City's restricting food sharing. Proponents of these laws argue that homeless people congregating for free food spread disease and increase crime rates. Let me tell you about what they're doing. You have to look at this strategically. By breaking them up anywhere they gather, they will never build a force. Okay? If you don't let them continue to congregate in one place and build up 1,000 people, because what's going to happen once you build up enough people, people's going to start talking. They're going to start getting good ideas. And at some point, they're going to start implementing those quote-unquote good ideas. The more people, the more emotions, the more energy, just plain more hands and sticks and whatever. That's why they do it. It's to make sure that they keep them broke up so they don't build into a number that you could consider a force. It's sickening when you really pull back and you look at the situation and look, folks, think about this. Trillions of dollars is going to go to Ukraine. How much money did the government just spend to bail out banks when it comes to student loans? Because that was a bank bailout. I'll never stop saying it. That was a bank bailout. That wasn't student loan debt forgiveness. It was a bank bailout. It's ridiculous. They'll open up that checkbook and they'll write it for anything other than the American people. And I know a lot of people would argue that. Look at what they're sending to Ukraine for war, and look at what they use in our social programs. Compare the two. It's insane. Insane. Can you completely take care of the homeless problem? No. I don't believe so. There are actually some individuals, and it's not exaggeration whatsoever, there are some individuals that prefer to live that way. But it's a really small amount of them. There's a fair amount of them that deal with some pretty serious mental illness. Had this been 30 years ago, they wouldn't be on the streets to begin with. Many of these people would be in institutions. They wouldn't be on the streets. And then you've got the simple fact that this whole rat race to begin with is absurd. People having to work 2 and 3 jobs and still can't pay the bills. That's messed up. I get it. And I don't have to approach it from a, oh, I'm above them. Because I'll tell you what, I'm not. You know, I mean, anything can happen in somebody's life. Next month, I could be homeless. There's nothing to promise me that it's not going to happen. Do I know of anything that's coming? No. But it doesn't mean that something can't happen. And there are a whole lot of individuals that are on that street right now because of something that happened in a single day. A loss of a job, you name it. Right now, it's hell to keep up. So if you get behind, you're pretty screwed. I don't know. This is nonsense. We need to fix the problem and stop trying to hide it. Maybe I better ought to do this. I'm going to. Hang on. Let's see. This has just came out on RT. U.S. shuns limits on nuclear weapons use. It says, this might be the same thing I covered earlier. Open. Why the hell did I say that? Okay, let me go ahead and read. It says the Pentagon revealed on Thursday, in its long-awaited National Defense Strategy report, that given the growing national security threats posed against the U.S. and its allies, Washington must leave the door open to such options as a nuclear first strike. And that's pretty much saying this stuff. But this here quotes him saying, those approaches would result in an unacceptable level of risk in the light of the range of non-nuclear capabilities being developed and fielded by competitors that could inflict strategic-level damage to the United States and its allies and partners, the NDS said. Some allies and partners are particularly vulnerable to attacks with non-nuclear means that could produce devastating effects. Biden pledged while running for president. We're not going to read all that crap. But, yeah, so essentially what they're trying to say is, well, just because the weapons that they're using aren't nuclear weapons doesn't mean that they aren't as bad as nuclear weapons. And I would concur. And I will also remind everyone, I've said countless times, that in this conflict, not the current one, but the one that's about to start, you are going to find out about weapons that you never knew would be possible. I'm telling you. There's a whole lot of technology out there that all the teams have that they've set on for a very long time. And some of the technologies may, be similar to one another, and other technologies, maybe one or, only one country has figured out, or what have you. We don't know the extents of their technologies, of any of the countries. But I do know it goes far beyond lobbing missiles at one another. That's like Neanderthal in today's times. I'm just saying. It's like sticks and stones, really, at this point. There's a hell of a lot worse weapons than nuclear weapons. And then there are some types of, oh my gosh, what's the one that sucks all the oxygen out of the air? Yeah, that would suck. Anywho, got some headlines for you. Few vapes. I didn't say that, but it's in the contract. Hi. CIA chief met Zelensky in Kiev, says CNN. Syria claims third Israeli strike in a week. Norway explains opposition to Russian gas price cap. Musk reassures Twitter staff over job cuts, says media. India mulls trade in Russian grain, says media. A G7 not powerful enough to dictate Russian oil price, says World Bank. Iran announces retaliation against the EU. Mercedes-Benz to withdraw from Russia. China buys stake in Hamburg port, says media. A German energy giant explains paradoxical, move on renewables. Russia makes, covered that. Macron issues warning on energy prices. Berlin explains why Nord Stream 2 is unfit for gas supplies, says Der Spiegel. Eurozone sees highest interest rates in decade. Kremlin clarifies reports on Putin's message to Zelensky. A British oil giant still involved with Russia's Rosneft, says CEO. Kanye West was escorted from fashion company's office. A U.S. man sentenced to death for killing trailblazing Sikh officer. A Russian car industry sees 77% drop in output. Did an article on that. Let's see. EU may pay big price for abandoning Russian energy, says Session. How many? Oh, wow. Hang on. Let me get this popped up here. What? It is on, you freak. Come on. Yeah. Try again. There you go. Good job, phone. Okay. 8 found dead after house fire in Tulsa area. Homicide feared. 8 people were found dead Thursday after a fire was extinguished at a Tulsa area house. Hang on, let me put that out. And police said they were investigating the deaths as homicides. The fire was reported about 4 p.m. Thursday in a quiet residential area of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, 13 miles southeast of Tulsa. Broken Arrow police said the fire and the deaths were being investigated as homicides, but they didn't believe an immediate threat to the public existed. Police spokesman Ethan Hutchins said the scene was complex with a lot of moving parts, so no other information was being released immediately. Understandably, this is a shock to Broken Arrow. It's a safe city. Broken Arrow doesn't have this kind of situation every day, Hutchins said. Broken Arrow is Tulsa's biggest suburb with almost 115,000 residents. The U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives was assisting in the investigation, he said. So, that's all there is on that. New York Post hacked with vulgar headlines. Kiev asks for cluster munitions, says media. And I think that's insane that they're flat out asking for them. A woman arrested for... Oh, did that one? Ukrainian firm designs perfect shark drone. EU nation explains how ex-Russian presidential candidate crossed the border. Russian MPs want LGBT propaganda banned. Pets hurt by Halloween costumes, UK vets say. Trade in national currencies to dominate globally, says Putin. The West has nothing left to offer the world, says Putin. Ukraine says it reinforced border with Belarus. Germany shuts down Greece's reparations request. Conflict between Russia and Ukraine, a civil war of sorts, says Putin. Russia is not an enemy of the West, says Putin. I actually covered that quote earlier. Putin reveals his thoughts on gender theory. Let's see. Putin offers few details about Ukraine's dirty bomb plans. Disney stands by woke strategy. Climate protesters attack iconic painting. Again. Putin reacts to question about nuclear apocalypse. Putin comments on Grandma Pelosi visiting Taiwan. Musk says he bought Twitter for the sake of humanity. Calm down there, Elon. More German soldiers refusing to fight amid Ukraine conflict, says AFP. Ukraine adds billions to its military budget. Well, how nice of them. I wonder who pays that bill. PayPal reinstitutes the $2,500 misinformation penalty. And again, not concerned. There's a reason. I don't put out misinformation. And if they want to come after me for putting out misinformation, we can do that. We can do that. I am not going to hide from the truth. Not for a second. Let's see. China remains top threat to the U.S., says Pentagon. China, I did that one. Let's see. Putin says he didn't warn China before Ukraine offensive. Yeah, I had to laugh at that too when he walked in carrying a sink. I actually had to pull the video up so I could see him doing it. Let's see. Ukraine may use nuclear blackmail to get Western money, says Moscow. And I covered the others. That's it. Fun times. Not really. But I would highly recommend that you keep doing the things. Keep getting at it. Keep putting back as much as you can. Keep making sure everything's in working order. Keep on it. I mean, none of us know how this is going to play out. And it could be a slow build-up, or all hell could break loose overnight. None of us know the answer to that. So just make sure at least that you've got your things in order, that you can take care of what you need to take care of. In the event of, the grid going down, or, I'm not really concerned that the nukes are going to start landing in our backyards or anything like that. I'm not concerned about that. Am I totally downplaying the possibility of that? No, I'm not. But I don't think there's a huge possibility of it. It's just my opinion. Just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. I don't personally think, when the Bible talks about fire and brimstone, I don't personally think it's talking about nuclear war. So, there is that. The fire and brimstone, all that would go very well with the whole pole shift theory. Especially when the protective layers of the earth get stripped away and the sun starts scorching everything that is exposed to it. That'd do it. That'd be a third of the earth, boom, in one shot. See, not necessarily nuclear Armageddon would be a third of the earth in one shot like that. It probably wouldn't work like that. No. I just, I know that it had been popular for, ever since about the beginning of theology, to try to pit science and theology against one another, but I don't think that could be any further from the truth. I think as we advance more and more and more technologically and learn more and more and more, I think things are lining up closer to what the Bible has to say. But again, that's opinion, that's me. So, anyway, I am going to get out of here. God willing, I'll be back Sunday. We'll start this stuff up again. I might be going live tomorrow, do a little bit of flying live tomorrow. We'll see. But anyway, I am out of here. I hope you all have a good weekend. Hope to see you on Sunday. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.